And so far, at least under the stress of the pandemic, that hasn't stopped the crazy stuff from getting out.
There are a few things I dislike about that announcement. One is the problematization of human nature. Oh, human beings, they can't determine truth from falsehood, especially when they're under the stress of a pandemic. And two, the fact that there is the constant foreclosure and censorship of information doesn't make conspiracy theories less appealing. It makes them more appealing. When you start shutting down opposition, it doesn't make you think, oh God, thank God we got rid of that opposition so I can just believe in the truth in an uninterrupted way, like a symphony of truth, and I'm tapping my foot to it in a deck chair. It makes you think they're frightened. They're frightened of the alternative view because there is some validity to it. I'll tell you two stories that fall outside of the framework of people just can't cope with too many stories because of the pressure of the pandemic. Hunter Biden laptop, that was repressed and controlled, and people that spoke about it were called conspiracy theorists. And the Wuhan lab leak theory, which isn't absolutely, for the purposes of responsibility, because I like to tell you the truth, it's not proven to be true yet, but there is substantial evidence that it could be true. It's at least as likely to be true as the Wuhan wet market theory. So that's not, oh no, the stress, the pressure of hearing that there's an Institute of Virology in Wuhan. Oh, the pressure and stress of hearing that Joe Biden's got some potentially illegitimate, alleged business interests that don't line up too nicely with his position as president. Oh, I can't cope with the pressure. No, there are legitimate ideas that are being closed down. Therefore, freedom of speech, good thing. It makes me feel that what these powerful elites and groups are interested in are total control of the narrative, because unless they have total control of the narrative, they'll hear information that will prevent people from being compliant.
It's a much simpler explanation to say that, this person started the pandemic than that there's this weird thing in biology.
Gates said it's unclear how Musk will change Twitter if he takes ownership, while also raising concerns about the spread of misinformation on social media platforms. Misinformation is not an objective thing like a meteorite. It is a subjective thing. Whose misinformation? Who benefits from truth? Truth is continually changing. On my podcast, Under the Skin, we had Professor Brian Cox, and he said that responsible science should be conducted with humility, accepting opposing views so that truth can be reached through consensus and synthesis of opposing ideas. It's a good podcast, you should listen to it. Gates, who has been replaced by Musk as the world's richest person in recent years, went on to question what Musk's goal is with Twitter and whether his drive to promote free speech is sensible. How does he feel about something on Twitter that says vaccines kill people, or that Bill Gates is tracking people, Gates asked. Whether Bill Gates is tracking people or not is a matter for conjecture, but what we know for a fact is that the CDC are tracking people. We did a story on that last week. The data is available. Meanwhile, Gates has said he plans to set up a 3,000-person social media unit to help propagate accurate vaccine information in the future. This is a real gold rush for disinformation boards, isn't it? Every week a new one. Joe Biden's got a disinformation board. Bill Gates is setting up a disinformation board. Kanye West disinformation board. The last one was disinformation. When you don't have trusted leaders speaking out about vaccines, it's pretty hard for the platforms to work against that, he admitted. So I think we have a leadership problem and we have a platform problem. Yes, I think we have both of those problems, but perhaps not in the way that Bill Gates sees it. Because obviously what I believe in is freedom of speech, our ability to disagree with one another, our ability to have adult conversations with one another and disagree with one another. Do you believe that there's been free and open discourse around the subject of vaccines? Do you believe that pharmaceutical companies are subject to enough rigor and analysis? And do they share enough data, or do they occasionally say they'll boot things off 70 years into the future? Why is that? Because the information is going to make us so happy we might fall over with glee. And when it comes to Bill Gates tracking people, well, he says that in a glib way, but we know that the CDC are tracking people because a story about that came out last week. We did a video on it. And we know that the CDC collaborates with the WHO, and we know that the WHO is primarily funded by the United States government and Bill Gates' foundation. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just some information. That's a conspiracy fact. So Bill Gates, he could have two potential objectives, and you tell me which one you think is more likely. One, he doesn't want misinformation to get out because he wants to help everyone because he loves everyone so much. Or two, he wants to control information because he has his own agenda which can be tracked and observed according to data and information that's available to everyone. I don't know the truth because I'm just one person like you, working with a team, trying to convey these stories openly in a way that encourages debate and conversation. We don't know the truth, but you let us know in the comments below what you think about this story. Any questions you have, we'll answer them as best we can. Any suggestions for stories, we'd love them. Give this